Welcome to the Learning and Design Mastermind Vodcast that bridges the worlds of instructional design and project management. I am Daisy Barreto, your host, and with me is Sherry Conklin, your co-host for this podcast. And I'm very thrilled to be your guide as we explore the exciting intersections of these two dynamic fields. And in each episode, we will explore the latest trends, case studies, and practical tips from professionals in the field that can help you deliver exceptional learning experience while keeping your projects on time. Here with us today is Marisa Sullivan, who is a former student from UNCW. She's an alumni from our program. And Marisa, could you please tell us more about yourself, your position, where you're currently working, and what do you do?
Yes. So I am currently working at Durham Tech Community College in Durham, North Carolina, and I am the coordinator of distance learning. I also still teach classes. In a previous life, I was a department chair for social sciences, so I am also a psychology instructor. So I have the faculty background and kind of have melded together in this position in um, training faculty to use the LMS and how to teach efficiently in an online environment, but also some classes that use it for seated purposes as well.
It's wonderful. Thank you for sharing more about yourself. So my first question to you, especially since you are more in this area of working with LMSs, and I know that your college transitioned to one recently. Can you describe a situation where you had to convey technical information related to an LMS to non-technical end user? And then we can definitely speak of like maybe faculty members, because I know that they're not very familiar with. And how did you ensure that there was that clear and understandable communication with the users?
Yeah, so this is basically what I do every day, is help faculty work their way through the LMS. And we do have a variety of users. So we have some who are low end and some who are high end. Um, Now, since I'm at a community college, we have a lot of different degrees, certifications, programs, and that includes the faculty coming in with their own technical skills. So, and it's not based on what program they're teaching, because I have some people who are in like tech programs who are really great at computer stuff, and then some people in academia or more curriculum based classes who struggle with it. So there's no kind of predictable method there. But so what we do a lot with the low end users, they tend to not email us, but give us a phone call and say, I'm trying to build a quiz. This is not working. And I have to say, well, what is not working? So the biggest thing I do first, and this is typically with any kind of help request, is get details, get context. Because a lot of times people are calling you in a panic, or emailing you in a panic and just say, like, this is not working. Help. Um, and a lot of times it's like 5:30 at the end of the day, and they have to teach that night class that starts at 5:45. So getting all those details, responding quickly, um, is the first step. And then what I like to do is I like to pull up their screen, especially if they're on a phone call with me, and I like to masquerade as the instructor because of, the admin role in the LMS. I see a lot more information and have a lot more options. So I want to reflect that. And I do that with students as well when they're trying to navigate things. Masquerading as someone is a very helpful tool to seeing what they see, and then stepping them through slowly. Okay, you're going to click on this, and then you're going to click on this. All right, see that little checkbox here? You need that, or you don't need that. And asking them what they're trying to do. And in an email, doing the same thing. A lot of times we'll use screenshots. We have our own internal help resources on another Canvas site that we've created, but also, linking them out to a lot of that Canvas documentation is helpful as well. So making sure that, it's clear communication, but also basic. Don't get bogged down in the details where if I forget to tell this person this little detail, is that really going to help them resolve the situation. No, knowing that some users don't need all the information. Some do, and some can understand it because they have higher level skills, but a lot of people don't need all the context of everything. But just getting them from point A to B is what you're trying to do. And I find that sometimes with low end users, I will tell them, I'll go to your office. Where is your office? And kind of stand over them and say, all right, let's do this. Let's start here. Which course are you working in? And that can be helpful as well. Or I invite them to come to our office too, because we do have some computers here, and oftentimes people have laptops. So that's kind of a general sense of how we handle those folks.
So I have a follow-up question before
Yes.
my question. So you said you masquerade as, for
Mm-hmm.
example, when students call you, when you can see that the student cannot see the assignment because the instructor hasn't clicked the right box, how do you communicate with that? What are the ethical considerations, knowing that you can make the changes?
Right. So typically, if it depends on the situation. So if it's an assignment that's not available yet, I'll just email the instructor and let them know, like, hey, your students can't see this, or you didn't set up this exception for this student who needs an extension or whatever. So I'll leave that to the instructor. But there's one thing I do kind of overtake is in the conferences tool, we use Big Blue Button, and you have to sync every time a new meeting starts. Well, if the student wasn't officially part on the roster yet, they're not going to have that link available to them. So I do that a lot for especially evening classes when a student will say, I'm supposed to be in this meeting. I don't know where it is. And I'll say, all right, let me take a look. And I'll hit that button. And then they're like, oh, it's there now. It's magic. You fixed it. So I would say we handle on a case by case basis, but usually we do leave that to the discretion of the instructor, because they're the ones that, are running the course. So we don't want to, overstep. And as an instructor, I appreciate that.
Thank you. Yeah, that's a good point. Could you share a challenging LMS technical issue you have encountered, and how did you go about identifying and resolving the problem? What lessons did you learn?
So I will say with our LMS Canvas, we haven't run into huge technical glitches. Typically when we run into something, it's more about another software we have that pulls information from our database and updates it in Canvas, like instructor roster, student roster, that kind of stuff. So I do have one of those examples where it was probably about 4:30, and it was only me and one of my other colleagues left at work, and all of the instructors disappeared from Canvas. No one was in their courses anymore. And our way of knowing that is getting a ton of emails sent, my phone ringing off the hook, my colleague's phone ringing off the hook, all the other phones going off. I can hear them all. So we're trying to see what's going on. So the first step is this an isolated event or a global event? So we go into Canvas. Okay, it is global. All the instructors are missing. No one can get to their classes. I'm on the phone with an instructor who says, I'm working on an exam and it just disappeared, and now I can't even get back into the class, and the class is tonight in like half an hour. And I'm like, okay, we'll figure it out. So as we're trying to field these help requests and seeing what's going on, and resolve the issue, I told my colleague, I'm like, all right, contact our point person in IT. And I really do want to emphasize the importance of having a good relationship with your IT department when these kinds of things happen. We have kind of an unofficial member of the IT department who comes to our meetings. And so when these processes work together to get information uploaded in Canvas, we kind of know what's going on and at least have a point of contact. So I told him, contact our IT person, and I'm going to communicate an email to all faculty to let them know what's going on, because that's one of the first things we need to do. One, to decrease the amount of requests we're getting, and spend time on resolving the issue, but also two, so people know. So they're not like, oh my God, I clicked on something, I don't know what I did. So I crafted an email very quickly, sent it to all the faculty on campus, and basically said, we're working on it. We'll let you know when things are fixed. We work with our IT person and get it resolved in a matter of minutes, and then a follow-up email to let them know everything's okay. Because sometimes when you're importing all that information, that data into an LMS, there's kind of these behind the scenes processes that are happening that someone like in IT needs to help you figure out and resolve. And they're much better at looking like, oh, this is the thing that's not working. This is what broke it. So that was kind of a major event. But I would say for like some more minor events, which may be more isolated, which are only affecting like certain individuals, reach out, use the help on your LMS. I've worked with our previous LMS was a much smaller company, but they had, kind of that small business mentality where they would get back to you right away and get it. It was a little better in that way than a more corporate version where you get sent a level 1, level 2, and then you finally get a hold of them. Live chat is always a good first step, I think, in reaching out for the support tickets as well. So use that because you're paying for that with the LMS. And so take advantage of their staff.
Thank you, Marissa. I really love the way you emphasize having a good relationship with, those in other departments.
Mm-hmm. Yes. We like to collaborate and foster those strong relationships, because you all have to work together for everything to go smoothly. Otherwise, it's, when everyone stays in their silos, it doesn't work.
No, that's very important to bring into context. And I know sometimes, people assume that being in instructional technology, instructional design, or even in a team, in that capacity, you're just working silos. But in fact, you have to be collaborative. You have to be working with each other to be successful.
Mm-hmm.
So my next question to you, Marissa, is how do you approach the design and the development of training policies within an LMS? What considerations do you think are crucial, for this process, and especially to be successful in ensuring that the faculty are well trained and then are able to, deliver their classes successfully, etc.
So I think we're unique at our college where we, especially in community college system, where we require training in order to get access to your course, which can feel like a barrier to some new faculty that come in. But I will say, and I got this, as department chair too. People, once they get through it, they're like, oh my God, thank you so much. This was so helpful. I've never gotten this at another college. I know how to use it. So we basically kind of look at it as, what do faculty need to know to get on the ground running, just to start up their course? We typically don't use course templates here. We let instructors build their own courses, how they see fit. Now different areas handle it a little more standardized because they have to, like our police department training, they obviously have to meet a certain standard. And those that are taking, state level and national level board exams. But typically we let the kind of instructors do their thing. So looking at what do they need to know without it feeling overwhelming. And that was especially challenging in this transition that we had, where we, had to really focus our training on transitioning from this LMS to Canvas. And, what do they know in this? How does it parallel and relate? And also using that as a stopgap for people who are hired new. And one thing that I always get into the frame of mind, and again, this is just my department chair experience, is what is a typical adjunct thinking, feeling when they come in? They may have been hired at the last minute. They're not getting paid a lot. They're not getting paid for our training. So think about things like that. Are people getting paid to do this training? Set a good time limit. We've been developing a new kind of regular training for new folks. We're finishing it up in this next couple of weeks here. That's self-paced and fully online. And we set a time limit, and when we're all peer reviewing and working through it, how long did it take you, how long did it take me, and keeping track of that, and trying to get in that frame of mind of that person who has a full-time job, who's wanting to get some teaching experience, who's not getting paid for this, but what do they need to know if they've never used Canvas? But we also have, an option too, where if someone does have experience with teaching in Canvas at another school, their supervisor can fill out a waiver form. So there is kind of a workaround for people who may think, well, I already have experience with this. Why do I have to do this? There is an option, quick little form. There's a list of competencies that we give them and say, make sure you're able to do all of these, because if you're not, you may want to take the training. So setting the required training of the basics of what they need to know in order to get course access, I think that's a really good stopping point for people. Now, it can be pressured and hectic at different times in the semester, especially if they're hired on at the last minute, but it happens and people get through it and they'll be okay. People may grump about it, but eventually they'll get through it. And we find that most folks are very thankful about having to do that, especially the supervisors too, because they will spend a lot of time managing that sort of thing if they don't get the training.
Thank you, Marisa, for sharing that. And I know that we had one of our previous guest speakers talk exactly about this notion of the importance of preparing even the adjuncts, because they are usually the ones that are thrown in, here's the class that you're going to have to teach. And some of them, they might not have their own board training on how to use the LMS or even where to locate any kind of training support that they can, prepare their course to be successful, in the LMS.
Yeah, I love that you have training.
Yeah, it's just so helpful. And again, as a department chair, I would always be like, thank you for requiring this, because you already spend a lot of time trying to manage that, but it would be even worse. Because I've taught at other schools where there was absolutely no training on the LMS, and it was just like, here's this class, and you're like, okay, I guess I can do this. I'll figure it out.
So what, in your opinion, are the best practices for laying out and planning an LMS course effectively? Are there common pitfalls or challenges that should be avoided?
I would say, and this is one thing I know some of my colleagues pick on me about, is organization. And one of the reasons we decided to move to Canvas was because it has that forced structure of modules that instructors typically use. Now, there's always a workaround, but we recommend certain practices and using the modules, using pages and what to put on them, how much to put on them so that it's not overwhelming for students, how to set up. We have attendance requirement for that first about 10% of the course in order to get our funding from the state and the federal funding sources. So, setting that up as a prerequisite for everything, that they have to do this first before they can even look at week one kind of stuff. So organization is key. Consistency is also key, I think, especially for setting up a course for students so that they know where to go. In our previous LMS, there was a lot more flexibility, which was a good thing, but also a not so good thing sometimes, because instructors could kind of set it up however they wanted, and a lot of courses varied. And they would say, well, my English class, I go here, but in my psych class, I go here. And you just have to be like, well, yes, that's how it works. Things will be different. You'll have different deadlines. So I think setting up for students, especially at consistency, like when are your deadlines going to be every week? Their assignment requirements may differ, but what is kind of the pace and the rhythm of the course? And really, and this is one thing I learned while I was going through the graduate program is that, okay, I'm already using a lot of these design principles that I'm talking about, but I can enhance my course a bit as far as, visual parts of it. And just organization. I am just so big on organization. It's just, it has to be clear to students, but even for like a training course, it has to be clear to faculty what they do next. Because maybe someone who is a low end user doesn't know to click next on the bottom of the page, and making sure they know things like that. Something I do in my course for my students, some of those videos they often don't watch, but I provide navigation videos, especially those first few weeks. Click here, then you're going to click here. And this is the rhythm of the course. So I would say consistency and organization. When you don't have that, when students have to click on, assignments, quizzes, discussions, I don't know what I have, keep everything in one place. Centralize your course. On our previous LMS, it was using a tool called Lessons. On this one, it's on a tool called Modules. So, just if you have a good centralized place, that's always helpful. So they always know, go here.
That's great advice. And we're gonna move to our last question. And so, especially as we are, we're the trends and futures of LMS, are there anything that you foresee that is going to be impacting instructional design, in the future? What are maybe some of the things that you're seeing in LMS's trends that you think is going to be the next things that we need to be considering or thinking about? And if you also want to share, any information for maybe someone that is a student or someone that is like in transition place, and if they want to be in a position just like yours, working with an LMS, what are maybe some tips and thoughts, that you would share with them that they need to be aware of?
So I hate to bring this up because I feel like I go to meetings and hear these two letters every day, AI. I hate myself right now, but it's in every conversation. So that is really changing things. I know, I think Blackboard has started to integrate an AI tool into it. And I think Canvas has I just saw an article the other day, Canvas is working on theirs. So one thing that we're tackling at our college, and this is kind of with getting instructors on board with AI things, is what are the ethical uses and what are the unethical uses? So teaching people how to use it in a positive way and looking at it in a positive way, because there's that very visceral first reaction to it of like, oh no, students are going to cheat. People are going to fit, or copy things. Instructors may copy things too. So looking at that and how we can teach people to use it. I have a colleague who we have a blog for updates from our department for the college. And I had written a blog article and she created this really great image using AI. So little things like that. I mean, it doesn't have to be a big thing, but looking at how you're going to use it, because it's not going to go anywhere. It's just going to get better and better and become more evolved and integrated into all of our jobs. So I think that's one area that I definitely see as trending upward as the rest of the world does. But I think we're really impacted by that. I'm trying to think as far as any other trends in LMSs. I don't think so. They're all kind of work the same. They each have their own little flair. But AI is the biggest thing I can think of right now.
And then Marissa is totally, I mean, I think like this is something that it is talking, even our previous guest speakers, everybody was talking about like AI. It's like, it's everything that everybody's talking about. And then even going to conference, people are hearing, the amount of tech companies, they're either promoting not just like, the AI per se, but like, how they're using AI for plagiarism, or how they are integrated with this particular tool for this particular purpose. So I think like you're not wrong in saying that AI is probably like the biggest thing. I think it is the buzzword in everybody's mouth, right now. And I think it is interesting to hear from multiple guest speakers that we've had. Everybody saying the same thing. So it is important to be aware of it. And so, and then the last question that I had for you on there too was just like, if you had final maybe words or thoughts that people need to consider, especially like, maybe a student getting out of program, or a new instructional designer, what they might need to be thinking about, if they were to seek a position like yours, or if they are in a organization where they have to be working with an LMS, and especially in that transition process.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So in the transition process, I cannot emphasize the importance of planning enough, and making sure you have a variety of voices at your organization. We had a task force and had representation and supervisors from all the different areas of our college. We had students on it as well, to really make our final decisions about which LMS we were going with and why we were going with it, and what our committee's recommendations were. And then what does it look like from there? Planning out, when are we going to communicate? When are we going to do training? We had a really quick turnaround. We signed up for Canvas in late December of last year, and we were running our faculty trainings in March and implementing it fully in May. So it was very quick. So making sure you're planning stuff, you have a timeline in place, understanding that timeline, everything's not going to go accordingly. Things aren't going to go as planned. But having a strong plan in place, and what happens if something doesn't go right, is really key. I've observed some other projects happening around the college recently that lack that quality, and it's not going well, we'll say, in some other software transitions. But it's planning is key, but flexibility is also key. And buy-in is a big part of it, but at a certain point too, people have to just kind of go with it. People are going to push back. They can push back, but it's happening. You just kind of have to get with the program at a certain point. So, I would really emphasize planning out stuff and making it a reasonable timeline. Even though we had a short timeline due to another contract ending, which is why we had to have a quick one, just making it reasonable. When can faculty actually do all these trainings, and when they're going to have access to their courses for summer, that sort of thing. So I would emphasize planning, flexibility. And if you don't have teaching experience on an LMS, I would encourage you to get some, because I think one thing that really helps me above some of my colleagues is that I have that teaching experience, especially at this institution. It doesn't necessarily have to be at the organization or institution you're at, but it's a good set of skills to have in your back pocket, because it helps you get into the mind of the learner a little bit easier, I think. It's not impossible if you don't have that teaching experience, but it is really helpful.
Thank you, Marisa. I really appreciate you sharing all that with us. And then that's it for this podcast. I just wanted to really thank you for the opportunity to talk and then share some of your experience, and then how you have been working with LMS. I think like this is going to be a great opportunity for some learners or some new instructional designers out there that are looking into how can I be incorporating some of these strategies in my work or my career as they start working. So thank you so much. And I appreciate the time that you have had with us.
Thank you.